Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So we already have the pathing tree thanks to people pulling it out and putting it on PoE2 DB. So yeah, I've already drafted up my initial tree for tomorrow on this basis. And so if you followed my my previous video about the warrior, the shield wall warrior, this is going to be basically it. Now there is a caveat with the shield wall skill is that it does sort of take away your shield skill for a little bit. So what we're definitely going to have to do a weapon switch somewhere involved in the build. So potentially we need to put in like where is it, Giant's Blood, somewhere in here. It's like 3 points. So yeah, there will end up being like a weapon switch of some nature, and then we'll switch shield skills to two-hand skills, but we're going to have to figure that out. But anyway, so this is the tree, I guess, as it is, and some of the stats that you should be aware of in the tree. Number one, this isn't like going to give you like the same detail as POB. That's going to be a little while away, so we're going to have to do this a little crude, but I'll talk this through in the live. So basically, we're going to build around being a super mega tank. So your stun threshold is doubled, cannot dodge roll. So we don't play dodge roll because that ain't my style. So yeah, we're just going to like face tank everything because I can. Beyond that point, we do only get 15% more maximum life, but a lot of that's gear based in Path of Exile 2. We have nearly 200% increased armor, 196% increased stun build up. 50% more armor from equipped body armor. That's coming from our ascendancy. We get crushing blows, 40% increased heavy stun, 94% increased melee damage. We have 76% block chance, increased block chance. So the way that I read this is this isn't like flat block in Path of Exile 1. It's increased block chance, which means we need to have a high block shield and a high armor shield for this to work. Increased stun threshold, yeah, 40% increased life regeneration rate, 15% increased life recovery rate, which means your regeneration is buffed up by 15% on top of the 40%, give or take, whatever your total is. We do stack rage into this because there's rage nodes in the tree as well. We do have increased physical life. There's a bit of life leech, but we don't really need too much of that. 75% increased equipped defenses on equipped shield, sorry. 40% increased block recovery. Block recovery is really important, by the way, because it means like when you get hit, there's like a tick period in between when you get hit and hit again. So if that's reduced, that reset period, that means that your block is a little more effective. So that's pretty good. 60% increased evasion while surrounded is an interesting one. It comes from these two nodes. You don't really need that. We probably want to come up from the top, but it's okay because we're running iron reflexes anyway, so any evasion is going to be a benefit. There's also a surrounding, when you're surrounded, regeneration node, so we have that. We also have gain 5 rage when hit by enemy. Because we're going to be hit a lot, we need that, and we definitely need the increased damage for when we have, like, block. And there's also recover 20% life when you heavy stun a rare or unique enemy built into the tree, which is really useful as well. Life on block, things like that. Gain endurance charge when you heavy stun a rare or unique enemy is down here too. So there's a lot of stats in this tree. Basically, when I sat down and I had a look at this, this is very similar to like the Path of Exile 1 tree when you first start out with the Marauder. And in fact, even the configuration of how this is set up is very identical to how like I would build a Path of Exile 1 melee tree or like Shield Crush tree or something like that. So basically when you start out, we go from the center point here, Marauder, obviously starting point. I've got damage nodes and stun build up because initially we want to get that early stun build up with whatever skill we're going to use. I'm just going to basically use anything until I get to shield wall right. And then we just have to be able to explode the shield wall. That's basically it. So we need a mace skill or something. Well, they're all going to be mace skills, but we need like a big wide AoE skill to be able to explode the shield wall once we drop the shield wall, right? So we're going to have to figure out which one. I don't know what I want to use yet. It's probably going to be something like... It's not going to be Sunder, because Sunder's not big enough of an AoE. We need something bigger than that. But anyway, we'll figure that out when we get to it. Now, you could come down and grab more early defense and get regeneration here. I thought of that initially, but we're going to get regeneration anyway. And we're only talking like the first like 10 to 15 levels in here. By the way, this tree is 199 and 122. Which would be 3 short, so this is a level 97 tree, so you would have to compromise on a few things as well within here. This isn't a leveling tree, by the way. This is just like a plan to how I will play my build. Alright, so we go into the first node here, Brutal, right? This gives us stun build up, melee damage. I figured into Smash, this gives us 40% increased melee damage against heavy stunned enemies. And then reverberating impact gives us break 25% armor, increased AoE as well. Now we need the increased AoE because we're going to be running shield wall and blowing that crap up. So we need to be able to blow it up, right? Then we come down to sturdy metal, 80% increased armor from equipped body armor. This is isolated to just the body armor, right? On the chest piece. Relentless, then we get 0.5% life regeneration per second, which negates the need for the 0.2 and 0.2, which is 0.4. So these points are basically worthless. We get more value out of the stun build up the way that I see it, because this is an offensive skill and we're going to use it a lot. And then if we synergize this with the gain an endurance charge when you heavy stun, as well as, like, you know, and then we're going to have to figure out a way to discharge that endurance charge, but recover 20% life when you heavy stun a rare or unique enemy, which is going to be more valuable when you got 30% increased stun build up, right? Then we come down, we grab Defender's Resolve. This is going to, I'm not too sure what stagger empties 50% faster while your shield is lowered. I'm assuming this is the difference between raised shield. So if you cap your raised shield and you get to stagger point when you cap out your, you know, when you get hit too many times, this is going to be half the amount of time to recover your raised shield. So you're going to be able to raise your shield a lot more, which is going to make you a hell of a lot tankier. Then we're going to come down, and we'll talk about this in 2 split segments, because we actually need to get to this node first, down here, Spike Shield. This is where we get a huge amount of damage, but we'll talk about that soon. So basically, we might end up focusing on this side of the tree, because there's a lot of tankability up here, and there's a lot of, like, really good block nodes and stuff. So basically, we're going to come in and grab this Polished Iron. 50% of base armor is also added to stun threshold. Now, I would say that this synergizes with the stagger, but I'm not entirely sure, right? So let's just assume that it does for now. And it also gives us tons of flat armor. Then we're going to come down, travel down these points here. We'll go to the right, and then we don't need that either. That's a redundant point. Actually, 30% increased ailment threshold. That's probably actually not a redundant point. It's probably actually a needed point there. We're still figuring things out as we go, right? So basically, we go up to Vigilance. This gives us 12% increased block, 6 life gain when you block. Come down into Heat Proofing. This goes 25% armor, applies to fire damage taken from hits, which is pretty useful. And then basically Cranial Impact, 30% increased stun build up, gain an endurance charge when you heavy stun a rare or unique enemy. So if we're looking to then discharge endurance charges when we're fighting, and if this does work the way that I think it is, and it probably is a support gem that does it. I haven't checked the rest of the stuff that's come up on PoE2DB, because I sort of wanted to be a surprise, but I did want to have a bit of an idea with pathing, right? Then basically, if you're stunning all the time, then you're going to always have endurance charges. So endurance charge stacking is actually a legit thing in this game. You could do it easily and get a lot of damage from it, right? So anyway, if we come back across to here, we come back up, we get Breaking Blows, 15% area of effect if you have stunned an enemy recently, and then 30% increased stun build up. We then want Resolute Technique, because we're not really going for crits with this, we're going for flat damage, right? And this eliminates the ability to crit, but it means our flat damage scaling is going to be so much more potent because we have no accuracy requirement. Now, I'm not entirely sure how accuracy works with shield skills just yet. I do know that there's plenty of skills that are slam based that are like 100% accurate too, like Hammer of the Gods is a great example. Then we come up and we get Greatest Defense. We need this because we get 2% increased attack damage per 75 armor or evasion on the shield. So we want a high armor shield to be able to proc this effectively. And so we could also take these nodes here, but we'd have to come back around, and yeah, 80% less knockback to from block take. Yeah, so we don't need that just yet. Sorry, I'm talking really quickly. Then we come up, we get Shattering Blow. Break 50% armor on heavy strike, heavy stun on enemy, which means we can use our stuns to then proc armor break, so we don't have to run armor break. Then we have Flip the Script. Recover 20% of life when you heavy stun a rare or unique enemy. This just seems like a really bloody useful thing to do in a fight when you're heavy stunning and you're already going to be really tanky, but then you're going to be stunning the enemy, and when you heavy stun, you're going to get a whole heap of life back too. Then we come back down here, and we only want these nodes here. So we want Made to Last, which is 15% of physical damage prevented recouped as life, right? So basically, when we're taking, we'll take 100% of the damage on hit, right, or whatever we take, right? And then basically any damage that we prevent using armor or from block or whatever it is, potentially block, but mostly from armor, 50% of that damage is that we prevent physical damage that is recouped as life. So that's really good in like melee based fights. Maybe not so good with elemental based fights. We're going to really struggle with that initially. Then we're going to come down and grab Giant's Blood, right? And this means we can wield a two-handed weapon in our one hand. Now, I'm not sure when we would take this, but I'm just assuming we'll need this for weapon switching to do more damage. Then we're going to come down and grab Vigilance. This is 12% increased block. Sorry, we've already spoken about this. So, yep. So then we come down on this node here, and we're going to come across and we want to grab this node called Lay Siege, which is 1% increased damage per 1% chance to block. And we have 76% chance to block, right? So by stacking more block for every 1% that we take, we get an increase to damage, which is quite significant. So that's actually a really good source of damage, and it's going to make shield skills really, really strong. Then we come down, we grab Unwavering Stance, so your stun threshold is doubled, and we can no longer dodge roll. We don't need to dodge roll. I don't need to dodge roll. If I'm tanky enough to tank everything, the idea with this build is if you can tank it, then you can kill it, basically. Then we go to the right, we grab Hail Heart, 15% increased life recovery rate. We also get 30% increased life regeneration rate. This is a really good node. I really like this node. There's a lot of really good nodes. It's very, yeah. Anyway, so we come down, we grab Ignore Pain, funnily enough, as a Diablo 3 skill. Anyway, so we gain 3 rage when we hit an enemy. Every rage also grants 2% increased stun threshold as well. And we get Battle Trance. We get like a ton of flat rage from here. Gain 2 rage as well. So every time we hit an enemy, we get 5 rage, which is pretty good. Then we go to the right, we grab Goring, which is 30% increased amount of life leech. We don't really need that, but it's like 40% increased flat physical damage, which is pretty useful. Then we come across, we get Iron Reflexes, so basically all evasion in the build is converted to armor, so we stack up tons of armor. And then we also pick up this Leatherbound Gauntlets, which means 1 +2 evasion rating per 1 armor on equipped gloves. So basically, if you have high armor gloves, say they're like 800 armor, that means they're going to be 1600 armor, because for every 1 point of armor, you're going to get 1 point of evasion. Then you're going to convert it using Iron Reflexes back to armor. So for every 1 point of armor, you get 2 points of armor. So it's a really, really good source of stacking up really easy armor in Path of Exile 2, as far as I can see. Then we're coming up, and we grab this in the thick of it. So regenerate 2.5% of life per second while surrounded. So we're going to be like, and then 30% increased evasion rating, which is then going to re-synergize with the potentially the Leatherbound Gauntlets, and this is actually going to increase our armor from our evasion sources as well. I sort of like this because we're going to be a little slower with this build. We're going to be a big, like, hulking mass. So basically, we need something to be able to prop up our regeneration, and this is a good source of it. And then we come down, we keep going to the right, and then our last 2 nodes are Spike Shield, which is 50% increased defenses from equipped shield, 1% increased attack damage per 75 armor or evasion on shield, right? And then we also grab Shield Expertise, and that's 12% increased block chance and 40% increased block recovery. So it's pretty consistent with like a decent sort of skill to be able to like keep proccing. Now, we're probably going to need to scale in more attack speed somewhere here. I'm not too sure how we're going to do that. I don't know if Glancing Blows is going to be a good option, which it'll synergize with this node over here, Made to Last. Not entirely sure yet. Just don't know enough about the game. Haven't played the build. Don't know how the gearing works yet. Anyway, I think this will be an okay tree. Like, there's definitely optimization here. Like, as I just look at this, potentially, you know, I could carve out 2 points here and then just come up into here, and if I could find some more efficiency, well, I can't really find any more efficiency. I really need that Lay Siege point early on, so it doesn't make any difference if I move that around. It's not going to give me any benefit aside from having access to those nodes and endurance charge nodes, but you know, it depends on how you want to play. You could also come up through here as well and then come back up through here, but there's no real benefit to that. Also, this heavy contact as well hits that heavy stun. Enemies have Culling Strike, could be really useful as well. There's a lot of really good nodes in the tree that I've noticed. Like 40% increased Thorns damage. We're definitely going to be able to run a Thorns build in this, so that's something that I'm going to do. Armor stack and then run Thorns seems really easy, and maybe Thorns bleed. But yeah, anyway, that's basically the pathing tree that I've set up. Now, I'll put a link in the description to this because it's now available publicly. You know, the ship has sailed, right? Everybody's looking at it on streams and stuff like that. So yeah, anyway, I thought I'd do the tree and then give it to everybody. But if you want to see the original video idea, then definitely have a look in the description. I'll put a link to the video. But yeah, this is going to be my pathing tree that I'm going to follow tomorrow loosely. And then I'll adjust it on the fly, but it gives you an idea of how to play shield skills, if that's what you want to do. Now, if you want a more cohesive sort of put together of this build, obviously these days I have partnered with Mobalytics, so they've actually got a build program up now if you want to check it out, where you can see my build planner, and I will share this in the description below. And yeah, so basically, just as a quick synopsis, now I'll update this as I go. The gearing here is all tentative currently, so this is all going to change. And we've got a basic skill setup as well. So essentially, we have access to raise shield all the time, but we have shield charge into seismic cry. So you charge into enemies, hit seismic cry, drop earthquake to proc jagged ground. Then we want to crack a shield wall, and we're going to put fortress in there to basically pull the shield out all around me. And then basically supercharge slam with a weapon switch to blow that entire wall up in one go. And then, you know, basically it's going to do tons of damage. Okay, so also on Mobalytics is the full pathing tree. And so, yeah, basically go crazy. Yeah, it'll give you a bit of an idea. Now, this is really like, at this stage, early days. So there's a lot sort of to change in this build. And I'll continue to update this guide on Mobalytics. So this is version 0.1 at this stage, and then as we go, yeah, we'll see how we go. So yeah, anyway, yeah, if you want to check it out, it's on the website, and a bit of a tree to follow, and yeah, it should give you a bit of a guide. Now, a lot of stuff, if not all of this, will change, just a precursor. So this will be updated, this will be in progress until it's completed at this stage. Okay, so if you like this type of video, this is basically how I do build guides, or semblances of them. It's going to be a little different with Path of Exile 2 for a little while. Then don't forget to like and sub to the channel, and follow the Twitch, the X, also there's a Patreon down below if you want to do that too. But yeah, anyway, this just gives a bit of a plan to tomorrow, so we know what we're tackling with. I know, like, a lot of people are like, I want to go in raw and stuff like that. I do too. But I sort of still like the fact that I can have a plan, because this is how I play Path of Exile, right? It's how most of us older players play PoE. We like PoBing. Anyway, I'll see you guys later, and have a good one.